So our shape is more or less decided. I mean the proportions. And now we're gonna create something cool. So Shift A to add plane, Control G to move it, and let's scale it, and move it somewhere here, and so it fits. And now we can extrude it, and let's go to occlude, so this X-ray mode, right? And Alt C to go to X-ray mode in a solid mode as well. So now let's move these elements around. GX and move it in here, and then let's grab a loop edge in here and extrude this one. So go to edge and EX and extrude it all the way up to here. And then we go into add another loop in here and extrude it downwards. So E, and move this one back. So GG and move it here. Now I need to keep quads. That's important because we're going to be subdividing it. So Control R to add a loop. SX0, not 9, SX0. GG to move it in here. Here is fine. Now grab this one and simply extrude it down. And let's move this one in here. Add a loop and move this one here, right? Now, what I want to do is create, first of all, like a rounded stock in here. So GG, move it down here. We can still grab all these verts and actually rotate them if you wanted to, but you know what? Yeah, let's use mirror tools again because I think it worked perfectly in the previous situation. So curve stretch and 2, and simply move it in here with PG. Okay, right click and close this thing. Now, what I want to do is create an arch in here, but to be able to do that, you need to create like a radiating edges that will go perpendicular to edges that form this curve. Let me show you what I mean, because it's actually quite difficult to explain, but it's important. So first of all, I'm gonna create another edge in here, so I have a support. Now I need edge in here, so I'm gonna grab K, and I'm gonna run something like this, okay? And then I can actually run a support loop in here and combine these two faces. Now that's an n-gon, but we're gonna sort it out in a second. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna simply combine these two. Now we're gonna split them. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna run edge here, right? And combine these two into a face. Now that's a quad, but not yet. It will be soon. GG, move this one in here. GG, move this one in here. So we see we're kind of forming this kind of like a circle, right? And we're going to create a quad in here. Perfect. Now it's all quads. This is a pole in here, which means you got 5 edges going into one vert. And being a pole myself, I can tell you this is a very bad idea to have poles around, you know what I mean? But it's a flat surface, so it's fine. If this was curved, this would be bad news. You could get some pinching, but on a flat surface, we're good. So the most important part in here, let me create another loop here, is to have a nice kind of like a round-ish support. You see now all these edges are sort of like radiating outside, and they sort of fall perpendicularly to these edges. That's what I was talking about. You don't want edges going at the really steep angle, because they will be pulling bevels, so that's just bad news, okay? So what we can do now, we can arrange these here to make it look a little bit more civil, right? This one, again, this one is just fine, not a problem. And we're gonna use mirror tools here to make it more round. So go to N, curve stretch, and now we're gonna change this number to 5 and click left mouse button. and this should be fine. This is a little bit steep, to be honest. I want to make it a little bit more gentle. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna simply do something like this and introduce one more edge in here and move this one a little bit deeper and run mirror tools one more time. Okay, all right, perfect. So we got this shape, right? And let's move it a little bit closer so we don't have Z fighting. Z fighting, by the way, is we have those two planes on the same position, and Blender doesn't know which one is on top, so that's called Z fighting. Let's go GY and move it just a little bit in front, right? So we got this cool shape going on, and what I'm thinking, right, is that I'm going to cut out an opening in the middle in here, right? So, but I'll do it later. I'll first block out the main shape, I think, and then we're gonna play with it. But we're gonna add some loops in here and loop in here, right? So we can actually move this one, right, a bit higher, okay, up to here, and we can literally, you know, cut out all these. So we can just, you know, remove them, right, like this. Faces, delete. And we will have to straighten this up, but we can do it later on. So we could actually move it up a little bit, and then what we could do is run mirror tools here. So curve stretch, select 2 with your mouse wheel and press, and it's gonna be a straight line. And this one actually gonna go as X0 to make sure it's straight. And we should be PG. This is not straight, but we want it to be straight. So again, curve stretch and click, perfect. And the rest is fine. How we looking here? Should be okay. All right. So we got this shape going on, right? Now another thing that I want is I want to separate this trigger from, the grip from the stock. So I want to have this line straight. So again, mirror tools, 2, click. Now it's a straight line, and we can literally rip it off. So we're gonna select all these and press P and its own selection, and that's what I want, right? I think, hang on a second, let me think a little bit about it. Maybe not so deep, maybe that deep. How about this? So we can create like an interchangeable sort of grip. P and own selection. I think that's better. There we go. There we go. Is it okay now? Maybe a little bit more gentle in here. How this looks. Let me go to local mode by pressing / on a numpad. You know what? Before we actually separate it, so Control Z until you're back to this full mode. Let's go to local mode for a sec, and let's actually run these edges. So with Control pressed, select all these edges. Now release Control, press Shift, click on this one, and then hold Control again and select the other one, the other loop. Okay, outside like this. Right, all around here. Just make sure you don't select anything inside. And then let's extrude it. So EY and extrude it on Y-axis. Okay, and I think now we're gonna be able to rip it off. But before we do that, let's actually mirror it. So let's go to top view and go back to main view. And we want to, at some point, right, align this with this cursor. So let's move everything backwards. So go to top view and G and Y and move it in here. So this reference plane is behind the cursor, which is in the middle of our Blender world. And what we're going to do now is we're going to move this origin point to the middle of Geo. And I think in order to be able to do that, we need to click Shift S and to geometry. But this is not in the middle, I think, because we got missing faces in here and Blender just doesn't compute it very well. Now what we can do is mirror it. So simply add a mirror, and we're gonna mirror it on Y-axis. And you see it's not really working very well. And the reason for it is that because we rotated the plane that was created from. So we need to apply the rotation of the plane to make this work. So Alt A and apply rotation and everything is peachy. So now we got this shape. Let's apply the mirror. And now let's try to move this point to the middle. So Alt A to apply the scale and Shift S and move this origin to geometry. And it moved just a little bit and now it's in the middle of geo. Perfect. And that's what I wanted. Now let's go back to top view and Shift S and move this one to origin. Move this object to cursor. That's what I want to do. Go to front view and then let's align it in orthographic view with the stock again, right? More or less. So now what we did is we have this gun, this stock, dead in the middle of the x-axis. Okay, that's exactly what we wanted, because now if I mirror anything across, I'm sure that it stays in the middle. All right, this one doesn't matter because this one's gonna go away in a few seconds because we will not need it anymore, right? All I need to do now is simply Shift A and add a cube and scale it because I want to create this receiver. So add it somewhere here and let's extend it to this spot. Go to top view and you see now they both aligned because this cube was added on the cursor, which means it's the middle of this blender. That's why we moved this one. So now you see why we did that. Now it's scaling perfectly on y-axis. Alright, so that's that. That's our receiver, which is a little bit too high in my opinion. But we can solve this problem later. And that's the magazine and that's the trigger. So magazine, we could actually imitate it by pressing Shift A, adding another cube and just simply moving something in here. So we have a more or less the position of the damn thing, and S, Y, and scale it on Y, and we should be good. Now I don't really need these two elements. I can move it to junk because literally I can start working on this one. The only thing I really needed from this previous gun, like an cutout, was just proportions between the stock handle and the receiver and this trigger, and the rest I'm just gonna freestyle it. So now what we're gonna do is what we can do is finish our blocking out. Okay, so we still need to form this this magazine a bit, and we need to add the front part. So let's copy this here. Let's make it a little bit more narrow. Let's add this at the front. And this should be a little bit wider. So let's select both of them and S, Y, and scale it a little bit on y-axis. And this should be good. This one is a little bit too tall, so we could run it lower. Maybe like this. This would be interesting. Maybe run it like this. So let's grab a cube. Okay. Move it lower here. Go to edit mode. Add the edge here. Grab this, actually split this edge, so Alt and select the whole edge, Control B to split it, and then move this one up like that. Okay, and now let's see, select both. This is actually too small because it needs to be covering, let's go to local mode, it needs to be covering the entire shape. It kind of does, but it's a close call. So let's grab this one and GX and move it outside. Now we can select this one and this one, Control minus, and that's our boolean. Perfect. Now, is it not too thin? Is it a bit too thin, isn't it? So we can now adjust it by grabbing this face and move it in lower. So we can adjust this cut in here to our liking, you see. And let's move this one a little bit lower as a whole. So the trigger will fit in to this structure like that, maybe. I think that's better. Now this one, we need to copy this to the top and scale it. So we're gonna have this top part like a rail that will cover all this distance here and sort of merge the gun together. And now let's move this one a little bit lower and maybe scale it on Let's scale it actually on Y. I want to make it thicker, make it savage. It's gonna be a savage gun, savage rifle, something like this. And, you know, duplicate this again, make it narrower, and this is gonna be our loofah or a barrel. And the barrel needs to be narrower than this other part, so maybe something like this. This should do. Maybe this should be a bit lower, somewhere here. And this should be definitely narrower than the receiver, so SY and make it a little bit narrower. This one too, SY, a bit narrower, something like this. Yeah, this looks kind of savage, I like it. So now we're gonna have a handle in here, right? So what we're gonna do is we're going to add a handle here. So Shift DD, so we can just keep copying stuff, you know. Don't need to add new cubes. SY, it's still blocking out face. It's just, you know, touch and go. You just try different things until they work. Basically, that's how it works, you know. There's no perfect solution or recipe for it. It's literally freestyling with shapes and checking what works. Now we could copy this one and rotate it and scale it and use it as a cutter, you see. So we could cut it here by pressing Y. It didn't work. Let me try again. Control minus. There we go. I cut the wrong thing. So we could actually copy this on the other side and rotate it and do the same thing here. So Control minus and move both of these to to cutters, right? And Shift 2 to hide the cutters. Okay, now we need a scope to balance this massive gun, and I want scope to be really big because the big scope is gonna balance this front of the gun. Scope should be somewhere here, and I still need the cheek rest, which means I need to copy it again and have a cheek rest in here. So SX, and this would be my cheek rest, which needs to be thin, right? Perfect. And it starts looking like a gun slowly. The shape of the magazine, I don't like it, but we're gonna fix it later. Now this one needs a padding, and also I think it's just too thin, so we can make it thicker. And what we need to do is turn off this X-ray mode and select all these faces and Shift D them, P to its own selection, and let's select this. There we go. Select everything and E on X and extrude it, and there's gonna be our padding. It's a little bit too thick, I think, so let's move this origin point to the geo. So Shift S and move the point, and now SX, it's not gonna scale this way. Perfect. So we're gonna go we're gonna select this face in GX and move it inside here. All right, so let's see how we're looking. We're looking pretty good. This is really heavy optically, but we could cut it. So Shift D, move it in here and select this edge, and let's Control B it like this. So if you don't apply the scale, the bevel is gonna be slightly crooked, but this could actually work for our to our advantage. So let's select this and Control minus. One more time, this and Control minus. What the? Why is it not working? Z fighting. SY and let me see, SY and extrude it outwards and select this and Control minus. There we go. It simply was too small, and hide it to the cutters. Now you see, now we get this opening here, and optically it's becoming a bit, less heavy, right? So this, I think it's still too bloody big, so let's just make it a tiny bit smaller, but let's move it with the cutter. So let's this one and scale them together on Z axis like this, and move it up a little bit somewhere here, and this should be peachy. So Shift 2 to hide cutters, and let's see how we're looking. We're looking pretty good. I like it. Shift D this and make it a small plane, like a plate. So this will ride on top of this scope, or on top of this rail for the scope. And we need some supports as well. So Shift D and, you know, simply rotate it like that, make it smaller. I'm just very simply throwing shapes at the moment. It's nothing confirmed. I just want to see how it looks, okay? So I rotated them like that, and this supports the scope. Scope is a bit too big. However, what we can do, we could simply slice it in half. So Control R in edit mode. Let's select this one. Control plus to expand the selection. P to its own selection, and now it's no selection. And we need to add a face because, you know, we ripped it in half. So add a face with 4 in vert mode, and the same thing needs to be done here. So go to vert mode and press 4, and you're done. Now, what I'm gonna do is go here and scale it, okay, inwards like that, you see. And I'm going to actually extend it on x-axis, but make it even smaller like this. And this should kind of optically change the size of this thing. And you know what, this is too far. So select everything and move it backwards, somewhere here. There we go. Now that starts looking like a badass rifle. Now here is going to be a place for RX90. So we rotate it on the x-axis. We're gonna put some legs in here. So again, let's grab this and Shift D and sort of rotate it, holding Control. So you rotate it on in increments, and just place it in here somewhere, and SZ to scale it. And for the time being, it's just a reference, guys. You know, don't have to be accurate. So this will be our blockout of our gun. This gun's gonna be bloody massive, yeah. This is gonna be a massive anti-material kind of shoot to destroy a city rifle, okay? We got some Z fighting in here. You see that? Z fighting. But it's okay. We can sort it later. So like SY, just scale it a little bit. It's done. There you go. In any way, we're going to be fixing it later. So, in fact, I'm still not decided when I want to have these cuts here straight or at the angle. I'm leaning towards the angle, so I would like the angle to be sort of following this handle, the stock padding. But we can do it in the next video. But this would be like a basic block out of this rifle, and I think we can move on from here and still adjust some shapes if you want to. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video, guys.